Hey everyone. A few of you might remember me posting a few months ago about an incident that my newly adopted dog Bruce helped me with. If that isn't an understatement, I don't know what is. Anyways, that event really happened close to 3 years ago. I'm in college now. Natalie is no longer my girlfriend and has been experiencing ongoing psychiatric problems as a result of the encounter. She started hurting herself and attempted suicide twice in the last 18 months. I try to visit her, or at least speak with her every so often. I'm the only one who actually knows the truth. Well, aside from Bruce and Rebecca, but the first can't speak, and the other doesn't really appear to remember what happened. That's for those of you interested in what happened afterwards. My brothers are fine, my parents are now divorced, and no one knows of the things that appeared in our house that night. Those things have only a tangential relationship to what I'm about to describe. In fact, compared to what I found, I'd rather have been eaten that night than have my mind further melted by all of this weirdness. I'm in college now, as I said, and I'm living in an apartment off campus with a couple of friends and their girlfriends. Bruce is still with me, and if you can believe me on this, it doesn't seem like he's aging. I know 3 years isn't that long of a time, but Bruce is a big dog and was at least 6 when I got him. He's almost 9 by that reckoning, and just last week I watched him leap clear over an 8-foot fence to retrieve a frisbee that one of my roommates overshot. He leapt right over with what looked like casual ease. I've accepted that Bruce is not a normal dog, and I'm grateful that he's still staying with me. I don't think I could face the world without some kind of backup after what I've seen. Anyways, the stranger. Holy shit. That guy. I'm not exactly in the best place mentally, and I'm officially diagnosed as bipolar 1 with psychotic features after a manic episode put me in the hospital for a drug overdose. Cocaine mostly, because I didn't want to fall asleep. When they fixed me up and stabilized me, they sent me to a mental health facility. This was my first time in a place like that. And after a few days, I realized why Natalie wasn't making a lot of progress. These places suck. They're only a step or two above prison, and the therapy they offer is a joke most of the time. There are 1 or 2 good guys, but most of the people just don't give a shit. Sorry, I'm trying not to get distracted, but just thinking about this guy is hard. He was there the first day I arrived, but rarely spoke. Sometimes, the way he just sat there, shuffling cards in his lounge pants and loose cotton shirt, made you think you were hallucinating him. People didn't seem to pay him any attention, unless he spoke or involved himself in a group session. He was helpful, not malice at all, and depending on your point of view, he actually helped a lot of patients work through some pretty serious trauma in their past. It's almost uncanny how he could draw out a person's deepest, most repressed memories. If you know what I've seen, you know he eventually got around to me. On my 3rd day, there I was sitting in the common room, reading a book, when he suddenly stopped shuffling his cards and walked right over to me. He sat down right in front of me and just stared at me for a while. He was tall and skinny, tan, with black hair and almost luminescent green eyes. He moved so quickly that I didn't realize he had moved until I noticed the absence of shuffling. "You are remarkably well adjusted," he said when our eyes met. "Especially after what you've been through." I shivered. That guy had an effect. You mean cocaine and bipolar? He smirked and shook his head. Those are just the symptoms of a much deeper problem. One that I rarely see people come back from. But you are certainly an odd one. Not a warrior by any stretch, yet you are resilient enough to gaze into the abyss and not be broken by the madness, though there are some cracks. He was being just vague, enough that anyone passing by would have no idea what he was talking about, but I knew he was talking about the incident. I decided to just ask, "What do you know about me?" He blinked, a blank expression on his face. "Almost everything, and you're fortunate enough to have found one of the last guardians in existence. Such a shame. They're a wonder and a gift to this world, but I doubt more than 500 are left in the world. They are suicidally brave." He grinned at me. I was creeped out, but not exactly afraid. How? You came by a guardian, or how I know all of this, he asked in response. Well, McCain, I will say that my secrets are my own. Feel free to try and fret them out on your own once you leave this place. But for now, let's deal with that trauma and guilt you feel. Guilt? Natalie, he said, you shouldn't feel so guilty that her mind is incapable of seeing the ugly side of this world. You are the exception here, not her. And while true, she needs specialized care, she'll get better in time. She'll attempt suicide twice more after she leaves her current long-term care facility. And after the second one, a hanging, she'll have a near-death experience and become a born-again Christian. He sneered at that. Pity is the bane of my existence. Okay, now this was getting weird. I had said none of this in group therapy. There was absolutely no way he could have known any of this. Don't ask how I know, he said tiredly. I can't answer, and I'll be forced to respond in annoying riddles that ultimately mean nothing. You don't look like you'd appreciate that. So, what are you? I asked. You've already made one correct guess, though you don't believe it yourself. He blinked again, and I swear I saw his eyes light up before he blinked again, and they returned to normal. You aren't human anymore, I said. He rolled his eyes. I was never human. Neither are the things you encountered. I shivered, but fought the urge to look away. Don't you mean were? Time is irrelevant, he said. He pulled out his deck of cards and started shuffling them with one hand absently. For the first time, I realized that they weren't a normal deck. What happened 984 days ago for us, right here, may not have happened yet somewhere else. I didn't count the days, but I had a feeling he was exactly correct in that number. Ignoring that, I tried to focus on the deck of cards. That's an old Italian deck, complete with a major arcana, isn't it? I've been interested in tarot before and done some research on them. I tried to surprise him with my knowledge. Observant, he said. A lazy smile crawled across his face slowly. With a flick of his wrist and another movement that was too fast for me to see, he pulled the 21st card of the major arcana right from the middle of the deck and spread them out before me. Try not to scream. I looked down and couldn't help but back further into my chair and cower slightly. Those weren't the cards of the major arcana. They were something else. Think of lore and aliens and alien geometries. Think of lore and alien geometries and all of that nonsense, mixed with a few parts of raw demonic slavery and the dread you feel when your most feared creature from mythology is brightly illuminated for you in colors so vivid it looks like they might jump out of the deck and trample you into the dirt. For me, it was the Four Horsemen. I'd always thought of them as something greater than what they were portrayed. More than simple demons, I always imagined them as the physical incarnation of forces of nature. With another sweep of his hand, he pulled them and started shuffling them back into the deck with a snap. Not steel, but not flexible either. More fluid than anything, like partially frozen water. He said this almost to himself. Interesting quality of mind, not unique by any measure, but rare enough that it isn't seen very often. I'm beginning to see why the guardian still follows you. Normally, they leave after protecting someone. But with your mind, you'll draw them like a beacon or a challenge. Who the fuck are you? I asked. I would have pissed myself if I had drank anything that day. This guy wasn't threatening, not in any sense of the word. But he was unnerving as all hell. And the deck? That deck he kept shuffling absently in one hand? Could have driven me insane if I'd kept looking at it. Just a stranger, he said, trying to amuse myself and right my cosmic balance. Honestly, you're the most fun I've had in a while. Tell your guardian I said hi. I know that one in particular. His given name is Vincent, in case you were wondering. He's close to 80 years old now. Given the amount of relative time he's spent elsewhere, he could be as old as 200. He wandered off and sat back down where he normally sat. He continued to shuffle his cards, staring blankly off into space. Only now, I wondered if he wasn't actually staring off into some other space when he did that. I got out a few days later, suitably shaken, but somehow also more determined not to let that creep get in my head. Poor choice of words. He probably already had. I had to file for medical withdrawal for the semester. Life went on. One day, after the curiosity was driving me mad, I decided to test out the one verifiable portion of the man's story. "Hey Vince," I said one day to Bruce, in hope that the man had just been messing with me, that he had just played an elaborate head game with some super creepy cards and crazy hijacking ability to find out all that personal info. His head snapped around so quickly, I knew that the man was telling the truth. "Holy shit," I thought, and started shaking. "The stranger says hi," I whispered, not really thinking. It just kind of slipped out. Bruce growled, but not his normal threatening growl. That was the growl of fear. Thank you for watching. I always appreciate the support you show me, and I'm forever grateful for it. Hope everyone had a wonderful day. All my social media information is in the description box below. All the story, music, and image information is below as well. And don't forget, I'll see you.